Hey guys, welcome back to Staying Strong for Marriages. It's a YouTube channel dedicated to helping people who are going through marital disruption. Today I'm going to be looking at a question of child support. And we'll just hit the highlights. So it says 1 out of every 6 custodial parents were fathers, 17.5% in this study. That was a lot higher than I've seen in other places. Often I've seen that kids go to the mother 95, 90, 85% of the time. In this study, it's only about 82%, so that was really interesting. What about this one? About 74% of custodial parents who were due child support in 2013 received either full or partial payments. So you have about a 75% chance of receiving either full or partial. And then about 45% of those people received full payments. So if you're really banking on, well, I'm going to, be able to live off of these child support payments and everything's going to be great, this study is going to say probably not. They're going to look at some things based on what are your chances of living in poverty and how much is going to be awarded to you on average, like I said. But really realize that even if you are awarded money, that the chances of not receiving your full payments are like 54%. 54% of people awarded payments don't receive everything that's owed to them or that they have coming to them. Now that's pretty interesting. I thought that was pretty interesting. I thought it was going to be way, way higher than that. It's really interesting. So now the question, the aggregate amount of child support due in 2013 was $32.9 billion. And that was actually a decrease of $14 billion from a decade earlier. Oh, I wanted to share with you guys. I promised I would say, which restaurant chain has about similar revenues compared to the amount of child support that's going out. Well, here, this is an article from Forbes. The situation is different at Burger King. So it says for a fast food conglomerate that oversees 26,000 locations with combined sales of $32 billion, restaurant brand is quite agile. $32 billion in annual revenues or sales, you could call it, same thing, for Burger King. And we see that, wow, $32.9 billion for child support payments in 2013. And wow, the number of people that they employ, the number of burgers that they're selling, the number of locations that they have, they're able to generate $32 billion of sales. Well, think of how many places, offices, employees, people that are involved in just moving money around in order for kids to be taken care of. And they're really only successful at best 75% of the time. So that's really interesting, right? Next time you drive by BK, think, interesting, right? It's a big industry. What do we have here? About 68.5% of the $32.9 billion in child support due in 2013 was reported as received. And here we go. What's the average? Averaging $3,950 per custodial parent who was due support. So, I thought it was going to be this huge number. Here they say the average is, I think this is the mean average. It doesn't say, but if my memory serves me right, the mean or the median, $3,950. So the other one, whichever one is the lower between the mean and the median, it's lower, something like closer to $3,000. So that was really surprising. I thought it was going to be this huge number because of many guys that talk about it. They just sound like, it's like an arm and a leg. And maybe in many circumstances it is. That is the average. So we're not talking about the worst of the worst stories. The 22.1 million children living with their custodial parents represented over one quarter, 26.6% of the 80 million children under 20 years old living in families. So there you go, about a quarter of kids are living in these circumstances. From 1993 to 2013, we're looking at received the full amount of child support. Received the full amount of child support. How often does this happen? It says by percent, 36% of the time it happened, 42% of the time it happened, 46% of the time it happened, 45% of the time it happened, 44% of the time people received the full amount of child support. 45, 46, 46, and 40, 41, 43, and 45% of the time. So you can see, on average, this is very stable. That, very regularly, people will not receive their full amount owed to them. I just thought that was interesting. And that's total. That's all custodial parents. That's mothers and fathers combined. And so I thought that was really, really, really interesting. Look, what I try to do a lot on this channel is to encourage people to find ways of building their income. You're going to need to do that. If you haven't checked out Premier Study, check that out. That's a site I put together a couple different ways to go out and make $40,000 without a lot of college or a lot of time. There's a lot of motivational videos on there for locking down, studying. There's jazz music. There's all kinds of stuff. You guys can check it out. But what we'll see in this study is that you really want to be able to work. Trying to live off this, like we saw, a very small amount of income is not going to be a good financial solution. You get some kind of custody deal and then expect some alimony or child support. Obviously, this isn't alimony, this is just child support, but it's not a lot of money, $4,000 a year. I mean, that's not going to get you very far. In 2014, about 5 of every 6 custodial parents were mothers, 82.5%, and 1 out of every 6 were fathers. We just saw that, 17.5%. Now we're going to look into the poverty. It says the poverty rate of all custodial families in 2013 was 28.8%, about twice as high as the poverty rate of the normal population. I mean, it's really not that surprising to me once I thought about it, right? I mean, you're basically dealing with people that, they have kids and there's only one income in those households. You have a little bit of money coming in through the child support payments. But I mean, look, if you have full custody, you have to take care of those kids. It's very hard to work full-time jobs, to work jobs that are demanding, that are going to pay well, 40, 50 hours a week, right? So you have all the expenses of a normal house, the expenses of kids, you have a little bit of help coming in, and you're not able to work as much as maybe you'd like to, or you have to come up with some gig economy thing, some kind of part-time stuff, some kind of work-from-home stuff. It's just not that surprising that people are going to be struggling financially and living in poverty. Check these ones out. The poverty rate of custodial mother families in 2013, 31.2%, was significantly higher than the poverty rate for custodial father families, about 17.4%. So some of the highest poverty rates, about 62%, were found among custodial mother families who did not work or who had 4 or more own children. Yeah, it's not going to work, ladies. It's not going to work. I saw this thing on Dave Ramsey's channel where some woman from Kansas City called in and said, hey, I got divorced and I don't want to work. I want to just hang out and stay at home with my kids because I love them. Cool. But it's not going to work. The money is not going to be there. Families in which custodial mothers had full-time year-round employment or had a bachelor's degree or higher tended to have much lower levels of poverty, about 12%. So ladies, and guys, because it doesn't matter. You have to have some kind of education. You have to be able to find some skill set that's going to serve you well. It's very likely, don't just think, I'm never going to get divorced. Everything's going to be great. We're going to beat the trends. We're a special case. No, you guys, you have to be ready for what is normal. Figure 1, poverty status of total persons and custodial parents by gender, 1993 to 2013. So 10-year period, 11 years. Custodial mothers, you don't want to be high on this chart. You want to have a low level of poverty, okay? Custodial mothers, high rates of poverty, anywhere from like 37% to the low of like 25%. A lot of poverty for custodial mothers. Custodial parents combined, mothers and fathers together, still real high. And this dotted line here, of course it's going to be swayed up because we know 82% of custodial parents are mothers. So this line should be closer to the custodial mother line. Custodial fathers, we're seeing, still really struggle with high levels of poverty. Not as high, but still high. And then total persons. So your average, say, you're going to have poor people that don't have kids, poor people that, are just maybe never married or whatever. It's going to be, 8 to 15% of total persons. So, wow, it's a very, very risky thing. And it's very challenging. Let's see what else we have here. This said the proportion of custodial mothers who had child support agreements or awards in 1994 was about 60%, and it increased to 65% in 2004. Since that time, the percentage has declined to 53%, and the percentage of custodial fathers with child support agreements or awards was 31.4%. So not even everybody gets it, right? That's the other thing to realize, is like, you think that you are definitely going to be getting some kind of payments. That's not necessarily true. Okay, so here what we're basically going to see is that fathers, for whatever reason, they're going to go out and work a lot more than mothers. And this is custodial fathers, okay? This isn't the guys that, don't have the kids all the time. This is custodial fathers. They have, the primary custody of the kids. We're seeing, for whatever reason, guys decide, we're going to go out and work. Women, for whatever reason, the moms are saying, no, we're not going to work as much. So the dark blue, full-time employment, we'll just look at did not work. This one here, did not work. On this right side, you can just see a lot more mothers decide not to work. Ladies, this is not going to be a good situation. This is going to land you in poverty. I'm telling you, I know you love your kids. I know you want to spend time with them. I know they're demanding. You got to figure out something. You got to figure out, somebody from church, if you have like a mother, grandmother situation, something where you can go out and work. It's not going to go well if you don't work at all. Custodial parents below poverty line. If you don't work, this is the big one. If you don't work, these are the people who are not working. They're going to live in poverty, almost for sure. If you do work full-time, doesn't mean that you're going to necessarily be able to climb out of poverty, but it's definitely going to help. Again, you see that working part-time really isn't going to be probably enough. a lot of people are still going to be in poverty because, look, we know about those part-time jobs. They generally pay very, 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 very little. Minimum wage, $10 an hour, something like this. You know, maybe you get a good one and you're making maybe $15 an hour. Most of them, $11 an hour, $10.50, $12.50. You know, it was just not good. Table 2, demographic characteristics of custodial parents by award status and payments received 2013. Did not receive payments. I want to just draw your attention to this. Whether you're a man or a woman, it doesn't much matter. 26% of these people, they did not receive payments. Okay, that's like, it's a big deal. It's a little bit worse if you're young, under 30, but it's not a pretty picture for anybody. You can see these different things. Again, never married. See, I've been toying with this idea. Is it better just to make a covenant with God? Or is it better to get yourself involved in all the legal entanglements of getting into a civil marriage by going down to the courthouse and doing it that way? Well, one thing it looks like if you decide to be never married, like I'm going to show you right here. You guys can't see this very well. If you decide to never marry and just do what I described, get into like a covenant with God, if you're a Christian, you know, your chances of not getting paid are the highest from married, divorced, and separated. You know, you're going to have to take on the extra risk, and you're going to have to decide, you know, if that's a situation that you want to be in. Reasons no legal agreement established for custodial parents. So sometimes, or quite often, there is no formal legal agreement by the courts for payments. Could be other parent provides what he or she can. Other parent could not afford to pay. That happens 36% of the time. Maybe it's amicable, did not feel the need to make it legal, or did not want the other parent to pay. Okay, also amicable. Did not want to have to contact the other parent. If there's such a toxic relationship between the two parents that you'd rather just not take the money than have to deal with this person, then that could be a choice that you choose, you know. Child stays with the other parent most of the time. Could not locate the other parent, so you have people that kind of skip town or whatever. Other reasons, did not legally establish paternity. That's interesting. Or child was too old, aged out. Okay, that's fine. So this is interesting. For about half of the 6.5 million custodial parents who had some type of agreement or award for child support in 2013, non-custodial parents had visitation privileges with their children, but they did not have shared legal or physical custody. So that's pretty interesting, huh? So about half the time, custodial parents had some type of agreement, even though the non-custodial parent didn't have shared legal or physical custody. No custody, no legal say about what happens to their kids. There are some visitation privileges, and that's about 50% of the time, 52% of the time. That's normal. You can say that's normal. 52% of the time, what's going to happen is people are going to have to pay child support, and all they're going to get is visitation rights. They're not going to have any legal say, and they're not going to have any physical custody, which means you can go to the other person's house, or you can meet off-site, but they can't come and stay with you. There's no 50-50. That is shocking. Is that shocking? Jeez, I didn't know that. I would say that's almost awful. It's terrible. What is this? Of the 6.5 million custodial parents with child support agreements, 87% were due child support payments in 2013. It says the remaining 800,000 custodial parents with child support agreements or awards were not due child support payments because either the children or child was too old, the non-custodial parent had died, the family lived together part of the year before the interview, or some other reason. Approximately 88.6% of custodial parents who were due child support were mothers. I want to read this, it's interesting. And about half were currently divorced or separated. So yeah, that's a high number, 88.6% of custodial parents who are due child support were mothers. That seems to be more like the standard fare that we hear. Figure 4, custodial parents receiving full, partial, or no child support payments. So on the top, it didn't receive any payments at all. 25% of people will say. Here, almost 30, didn't receive any payments. Did not receive any payments, you guys. This is not a trustworthy system. You have to be able to figure out how to generate your own income. This is not going to work. This is my conclusion from looking at this article this time. Full payments, okay. Less than half. We already talked about this, but it's just interesting to see it represented graphically. It's very powerful, I'd say. Your chances of getting everything owed to you, don't count on it. It's a 50-50. It's a coin flip. It's a little worse than a coin flip. Custodial parents due child support to receive full amount by selected characteristics. So these are going to give you your best chances of receiving full support. And this is talking about the custodial parents. So if you have a bachelor's degree or higher, Maybe it means that you have the ability to pay for lawyers, that you have some income there, and so you have some discretionary things that you can, money that you can spend on lawyers. Other thing, joint physical or legal custody. If you're a little bit older, if you're divorced. So again, it looks like if you're able to, it just depends. I would say, look, we know that most women initiate divorce, 70% or higher, 69% in the US is often a common number reported from a study that came out in 2015. So for women, this is why we see that women, it's a great deal for women to get married, to get into a legal agreement. And this is why we also see guys that are holding off on marriage. And this gives us some data as far as how much you're going to expect to pay should divorce come your way. And I think it's something that you should think about. You'd say, oh, we're a Christian family and all that, and that's not going to happen to us. Well, I hate to break it to you, but that's not really, I think, a right way to think about it. Divorce rates are higher among certain Christian groups than among atheist groups. I did a study on that. I looked at it. I'll put the card up and you can check that out. Which churches protect marriages. It just looks at the divorce rates among denominations versus non-religious people. We're not winning the battle as far as, being able to preserve our families. So that's just something to think about. When I'm looking at this data, I'm thinking, hey, even if I pay the average amount, say $4,000 or $5,000 of child support a year, and I have legal rights to my children, that sounds like a pretty good payoff to me. Now, one thing we have to go and figure out is this really disturbing quote here, that about half, 52.2% of custodial parents who had some type of agreement or award for child support in 2013, custodial parents had visitation privileges with their children, but did not have shared legal or physical custody. That is a real big problem. Then you're basically paying your $4,000 or $5,000, and you really basically have no power to see your children, decide, where they live, negotiate any terms, have them spend the night with you, at your place on a consistent level. It doesn't sound like you're going to have any privileges for them to spend the summers with you. You're going to get whatever little crumbs that they're going to give you as far as visitation, which is probably always going to be decided by either your spouse, the custodial spouse, or the court, and it's not going to be advantageous terms for you. So this is the scary part of the whole thing, that's the norm. Custodial parents who had at least a bachelor's degree, who had joint legal or physical custody of their children, who were 40 years old or older, and who were divorced had some of the highest rates of receiving all child support payments that were due. So educated, able to work through the legal system. So I've also read in the divorce court movie, or learned from that movie, that it's like cities and states are incentivized that they get a % of every dollar of child support that is paid. So here you're seeing that they're losing out on a lot of revenue for all this child support not received. So they're going to try to close the gap between these two lines. Here we go. The median amount of child support due in 2013 was $4,370. Among custodial parents who had arrangements for child support, a total of $32 billion in child support was due, a decrease of $14 billion from 2003. Now the mean, a different way of calculating the average, the mean amount of child support received by custodial parents with agreements who were due payments in 2013 was $3,950, about $330 a month. That seems, not a great thing depending upon how much you're making, but if you're kind of an average American, let's say guy is typically the payer, $330, you could probably swing that. It's not like some of these horror stories we hear of, say $500, $1,000, $5,000 a month. I saw a dentist that he had to pay like $5,000 a month. But that guy's making, he's making like $300,000 a year. He's making like $25,000 a month. Is that right? Yeah, like $25,000 a month. So, he could spare that. It's still a lot of money. The median annual amount of child support received was lower, about $2,260. That's dollars per year. Health insurance, about half the time the non-custodial parent provided the health insurance, whatever, so someone does it. There's two people. It's not a surprise that 50% of the time it's one, 50% of the time it's the other. Contact with government for assistance. In 2014, less than 1/4 of all custodial parents had ever contacted a child support enforcement officer, State Department of Social Services, or Welfare or TAN office for the child support related assistance. This was a decrease from 1994 when 42.2% of custodial parents had ever contacted a government agency. So that's really a cost to the government. It's probably not something they're going to advertise a lot, but if you're missing payments, you should go look into those things because they are actually maybe a little bit not so well advertised, but available to you. Often there's non-cash support received by custodial parents, like gifts for birthdays, holidays, help with whatever, say like school supplies. Contacts were made for many reasons, and the reasons provided most frequently for those who contacted like the state or social services was to collect child support. That happened most. Other reasons was to establish a legal agreement or court award, to obtain welfare or public assistance, and to locate a non-custodial parent. So very much related to, hey, where's my money? Anyway, a lot of stuff I didn't know about child support. Pretty interesting. Long story short, though, I would say, man, when you see Burger King, think about it. It's a huge industry, but when you break it down per household, it's not on average a ton of money. And so if you're banking on being able to raise your kids and never have to go back to work, it's nonsense. Someone lied to you, okay? And if you're a guy that, you feel like that you're going to just be smashed to smithereens, it could be these things are always negotiable, it seems like. One thing is, don't ever sign a permanent agreement. Permanent agreement means that you can never change or alter the amount that you're paid. And so if you're a young person, you're being sued for child support or whatever, definitely I don't know how it works, but don't get yourself in one of those situations, because your income could change, you could become disabled or hurt at work, the economy could crash, you could lose your job. And so having a situation where the same payments are due all the time, that's just ridiculous. That's all I have for you guys. Hope it helps. We'll talk to you next time.